Aloha, my name is Alana Souza, and I would like to welcome you to my presentation on rites of passage around the world and back again. Every culture marks a transition from childhood to adulthood. Whether lighthearted or solemn, these traditions welcome teens to the adult community. So what is a rite of passage? Well, a rite of passage indicates a time when a person reaches a new and momentous change in his or her life, and is something that nearly all societies recognize and often hold ceremonies for. These ceremonies are held to observe a person's entry into a new stage of life. Over the course of my life, I have gone through several rites of passages, first and foremost being born to this world. Along with birthday celebrations, getting my driver's license, going to prom, graduating from high school, leaving the comfort and safety of my home to go to college thousands of miles away, turning 21, and most importantly, the sudden passing of my dad 2 years ago. Rites of passage are often traditional ceremonies surrounding events such as childbirth or other milestones within puberty, coming of age, marriage, weddings, and death. It is a universal phenomenon which can show what social hierarchies, values, and beliefs are important in specific cultures. Today in Western society, we don't have a clearly defined threshold, and our rites of passage are randomly scattered throughout the mid-teen years. The entrance to this most chaotic period of our lives is vague, and to further complicate matters, children are maturing younger and take longer to prepare for fully engaging in adulthood. So where did the notion of rites of passage come from? Well, the concept was first articulated by anthropologist Arnold van Gennep in his book The Rites of Passage, first published in 1908. Anthropologist Victor Turner took Van Gennep's model and gave particular emphasis to the liminal rite, suggesting that after being separated from the society, before being incorporated back into it, the person going through that rite of passage existed in a sort of between state, a kind of limbo, where their identity was temporarily suspended. Van Gennep subdivided rites of passage into three subcategories: separation, transition, liminality, and incorporation. In the separation phase, people are taken away from his or her familiar environment, former role, and begin moving from one place of status to another. They enter a very different and sometimes foreign routine that they are forced to adjust to and become familiar with. A couple rites that would fall into this category would be birth or death of a loved one. The transitional and liminality phase is when people have left one place or stage but have not entered or joined the next. This phase can include the time when a person becomes engaged to be married. The transition phase may also include the time that children enter adolescence and leave their childhood behind. This is the time when people learn, grow, and prepare to be an independent adult in the real world. The last phase, incorporation, takes place when the participant is formally admitted into the new role. Marriage is a good example of this that will take place in this phase. There are many rites of passage in our lives. Some are considered to be more significant than others, but almost every day we can live brings about transition. To recognize these significant times in our lives, societies typically hold elaborate ceremonies. Each different culture or society may choose to mark these rites in very different ways. Each ceremony is unique and meaningful to one's own culture. Let's take a look at how the United States, along with different cultures around the world, uniquely mark these momentous rites of passage. One of the first rites of passage we go through in life is being born into this world. Infants leave a very safe and secure environment in their mother's womb to an extremely different one in the real world. Next, we have religious rites of passage. Baptism is a religious rite of passage which welcomes someone as a member into the Christian church. It is a sign that someone belongs to Christ and has turned from their bad ways, accepting that they can only do this with the help of God and His Holy Spirit. One of the three sacraments of initiation in the Catholic Church is the First Communion. It is a time when a child is invited to participate in the Eucharist, which is the center of Catholic faith. Then when ready, they go through confirmation and are asked to assume the responsibility of full Christian living. From here, we will now look at a few of the rites of passage most celebrated in Western society. First, we have bar bat mitzvahs. Upon turning 13, a boy is considered an adult under the law and expected to obey all the commandments from then on. He's become a bar mitzvah, or son of the commandments. Similarly, a girl becomes a bat mitzvah, the daughter of the commandments, upon turning 12. Bar mitzvah is both a joyous and solemn religious and lifetime milestone in the life of a Jewish male. Next, we have getting your driver's license. The process of getting a first-time driver's license is an important rite of passage and milestone. It is considered a significant first step toward achieving independence and becoming a young adult. My dad always taught me that driving is not a right, but a privilege, and if abused, the privilege may be revoked or taken away. This now leads us to the traditional Sweet 16 extravaganzas. Celebrated in the United States and parts of Canada, a Sweet 16 is a traditional birthday party for girls to have when they turn 16 years old. Since this is the age which one may attain a driver's license, it is viewed by many adolescents as an important passage into womanhood. Sweet 16 may be extremely formal, casual, or semi-formal. They can range from reserved parties at home with close family and friends to large affairs with a higher DJ makeup and hairstylist, yachts, and hotel ballrooms. From here we move on to the elegant, fun-filled, and memorable dance known as prom. Prom, short for promenade, is a formal dance held for high school students and their dates at the end of the school year. Prom is a big night for high schoolers and a chance to experience a bit of pageantry. For girls, it's time to wear a fancy dress, fancy shoes, and get a fancy hairdo, and for boys, it's probably the first time they've ever put on a tuxedo or any kind of suit for that matter. For many students in Western culture, prom is part of the transition from high school to post-high school. Now this brings us to the wonderful rite of passage we all know as high school graduation. High schoolers across the United States both dread and long for this day. All at once, they're free from the horrors of high school, yet suddenly expect to actually do something. These teens will experience a multitude of life transitions in the coming years, including marriage, children, divorce, new jobs, and job loss. Since less than half of all Americans go to college and actually finish, high school diplomas are the foundation of our educational milestones. Plus, since graduation happens so close to the legal age of 18, most of the U.S. views it as the crossing point into adulthood. Usually when students graduate from high school, they move into college life, and many times this involves fraternity pledging or hazing. For generations, young men have gone away to college, but could not fully realize the potential without going through some of the most humiliating punishment that a young man can imaginatively inflict upon the other young men. Once they make it through these now largely illegal trials of brotherhood, the worthless pledge becomes a valued member of the fraternal order. The final rite of passage in West society is turning the big 2-1. To many emerging adults, turning 21 is the last major rite of passage of their young lives. You waited your whole life for this moment, and finally the time has come. You spent years cheating the system, stealing alcohol from your parents' liquor cabinet, or shoulder tapping outside your local convenience store with the hopes of obtaining a six-pack. It's your 21st birthday, the end of an era, and the start of something new, and something special. Now let's take a look at a rite of passage around the world. First, we have the quinceañera. Quinceañera is a rite of passage and ceremony for Latina girls at age 15. This traditional celebration is sort of a mix between a debutante ball and a sweet 16 party. The ceremony begins with a church service and is followed by a very elaborate celebration, where she is accompanied by 14 couples of her closest friends, all dressed in formal wear, and they all dance a traditional waltz. During the ceremony, she is presented to family and friends, no longer a girl, but now a woman. Next, we have the Maasai lion hunt. Facing a lion in the African savannah is an experience of a lifetime. The Maasai are a peaceful people in Kenya and Tanzania. For many years, their lion hunt has been a historical practice that has played an important role in rite of passage for young boys. The Maasai warriors only hunt capable, large, male lions that have a pretty decent chance of winning, and they do it with a spear, no less. The Maasai tribe sees the lion hunting experience as a sign of bravery and personal achievement, and ultimately marks the transition to manhood. Considering the fact that guys in safari with huge rifles still manage to get killed by lions every year, those Maasai warriors have some guts. Now let's take a look at this elaborate color celebration. The festival of Poisang Lung is a rite of passage performed in Thailand and means ordaining the beloved sons. Young Burmese boys, usually between the ages of 7 to 14, go through this 3-day-long Buddhist ceremony. They spend most of these 3 days riding around on the shoulders of grown men dressed up in full swagger to imitate Buddha, the idea being that he himself was a prince before giving up to walk the path of enlightenment. On the third day, it all comes to a head when the young boys are ordained and enter into priesthood and spend at least 1 week with the monks. Afterwards, some go home to their families and stay to become monks themselves. Now let's take a look at this crazy rite of passage known as the walkabout. The walkabout is a rite of passage where male Australian Aborigines undergo a journey during adolescence and live in the wilderness for a period of longer than 6 months. During this time, they are forced to survive on their own, and when they come back to their people, they don't get a merit badge to get respect. It is a transition from boyhood to manhood, from carefree childhood to man of responsibility, and a deeply spiritual awakening and self-awareness that happens with solitude, aloneness, exercising survival and instincts, personal growth, and experiencing their connection to the land and nature. Man, Boy Scouts have nothing on these guys. Next, we have a strange-sounding coming-of-age ritual known as Rumspringa. When Amish children turn 16, their roles change. They're encouraged to experiment and explore. The idea is that teens will come back to the church after tasting the modern world. They go through Rumspringa. It's called all about sex and parties and fast cars. Rumspringa, which is the German term for running around, is an important rite of passage occurring between courtship and marriage, in which community rules are relaxed and Amish teens are allowed to experience worldly activities before deciding to commit to the Amish church. Now let's head over to Japan and take a look at their rite of passage known as Seijin Shiki. Seijin Shiki, also referred to as the coming-of-age day or the adult ceremony, is held on the second Monday of January every year. This national holiday honors people who have reached or will reach the age of 20 within the current year. Once the ceremony itself is over, the event turns into one big annual party. Throughout most of Japan, 20 is the age where people are subject to adult laws, gain the right to vote, and to drink, thus making 20 the age of adulthood in Japan. Now let's take a peek at the Native Americans' way of emerging into adulthood. Vision Quest, much like the Aboriginal walkabout, involve a period of solitude and introspection out in the wilderness. It is an ancient rite of passage ceremony enabling men, women, and youth to engage in an age-old ceremonial pattern, completion of an old life, movement throughout the threshold of the unknown, and return to the world reborn. The quest only lasts a few days, but unlike most rites of passage, a young boy who leaves on a vision quest won't come back a full-fledged man, but instead with a sense of purpose for his continued journey toward becoming a man. Next, we have another strange-sounding ritual conducted way over there in Norway called Russafering. While American high school graduation had to be over in a single afternoon, Norway does things a little bit differently. Starting more than 300 years ago, Russafering has all of Norway knee-deep in shenanigans as more than 10,000 young adults, usually between the ages of 16 to 18, gather together each year regardless of gender and class. They wear special clothes, celebrate, and drink beer and liquor from the 1st to the 17th of May, so it's actually going on right now as we speak. Now let's take a journey to the Polynesian islands. Tracing back more than 2,000 years to the Pacific Islands, tattoo is an ancient art form that began as a rite of passage for Polynesians and had become a form of expression for people worldwide. For young Samoan men, tattooing was a rite of passage from boyhood to manhood. Tattooing was begun at around 12 years old, and the more a man was tattooed, the more prestige he had. The tattoos of women were less extensive than the tattoos seen on men, generally being limited to the hand, arms, feet, ears, and lips. Ancient Polynesian tattoos have served as symbols of status and rank, religious and spiritual devotion, decoration for bravery and courage, pledges of love and protection. Finally, the last 3 rites of passage are those in which almost everyone experiences something in their lives regardless of where they come from. First, we have marriage and weddings. Throughout the world, there may not be nearly as terrifying a rite of passage into man or womanhood as that of marriage. No other moment in life is held so universally as a doorway to adulthood, regardless of any previous life experience or even age. The second rite of passage most of the world goes through sometime in life is having a baby. Having a baby is a rite of passage in which you learn life is not about you anymore. Parties known as baby showers are held in honor of women who are about to become mothers and accompany one of the major role transitions in which most women undergo during their lives. Having a baby is not only going through childbirth, but taking on a new role as a mother. Nearly every culture in the world marks this change ritually. Finally, we have going through the bereavement and funeral process, and losing a loved one is a significant transition from childhood. Experiencing the death of a loved one, in my opinion, is one of the hardest and trying rites of passage to go through. When it comes to losing a loved one, we go through not just one rite of passage, but two. One is the passage of the deceased individual from the world of the living to the world of the dead. The other is the passage of bereavement for those left behind, which involves redefining one's role in life without the deceased individual. The rites of passage between adolescence and adulthood are internal, not external. Adolescents today are looking to the world around them for external models and means of becoming an adult, when the truth is all they need to do is look inside themselves and use their strength to think about and make healthy choices. Knowing there is always some degree of choice enables young adults to realize they can be and they can do anything as long as they have will and determination. Entering and riding that roller coaster we call adolescence, taking that first leap off the cliff, means a long and terrifying fall to most of us. But what I have found great about our generation and generations to come is that even though we are aware that it is an arduous and daunting fall ahead, once we take that leap, one can choose to finally spread their wings and soar. Mahalo for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.